between gender and self-esteem. I focused primarily on gender identity and gender roles rather than biological sex because I feel like it's more socially inclusive and relevant today because masculinity and femininity are more fluid and based on personal feelings and decisions rather than solely on biological factors. To start, I went off of the definition of gender relating to socially and culturally defined differences among males and females, as opposed to biologically defined sex. So when I talk about men and women, I'm referring to those who identify as men and women. Similar to what we talked about and read throughout this class, gender roles and identity were not nearly as talked about or as flexible historically. Men and women used to hold very specific roles and were to uphold certain norms in society, such as women staying in the home and cooking and cleaning and taking care of the kids, while the men were to go out and work and be the breadwinners, the common stereotypes. While these do still exist in a sense today, society is more accepting and um, accepting of changing roles of females and males, and there's increasing popularity in non stereotypical patterns of masculinity and femininity among different individuals. And then most of the articles I researched define self esteem as an individual's personal evaluation of their own worth, both physically and mentally. Self esteem is influenced by a number of factors and can play a role in both intrapersonal and interpersonal relations. With the existence of gender differences in self esteem, it really made me wonder why these differences exist and what factors may influence self esteem. So, based on my research, several findings show that self esteem is commonly higher in men than it is in women. Um, there are multiple factors to take into consideration when looking at this main difference. First, different ages and stages of life have shown correlations with gender differences in self esteem. Men and women have greater differences in self esteem levels during different stages of life. In one study, there was an increase in differences from younger ages to adolescence, and then the differences declined into adulthood. However, both men and women have shown increases in self esteem from adolescence to middle adulthood. The study discussed how adolescents most likely show stronger differences than other ages in life because they adopt the social norms and roles and expectations of their culture. As adolescents, you are more exposed to social pressures and a wider variety of influences like parents, peers, friends, teachers, and the media. Um, Also, during adolescence, social comparison becomes a very prominent topic, and it can either positively or negatively foster self esteem levels. However, most research focuses mainly on the negative effects. For example, one explanation for gender differences in self esteem levels during adolescence could be that there is a stronger emphasis on female physical appearance and the need to be a certain way. Problems with body image often arise, which can lead to more negative attitudes towards their appearance and cause lower levels of self esteem in females. Also, academic success and romantic relationships, especially in comparison to peers, can be stressors that lead to lower levels of self esteem as well. Another study also talked about how, for college age individuals, there were greater differences between males and females who were attending college than those who were not. This could be due to the way colleges openly discuss working towards gender equality in relation to goals and future success, giving women the idea that they can be as successful as men, but it's not always the case in the real world. So college women's self-esteem may be lower because they have awareness of where they could be, while those not attending college don't really have these same exact experiences to go off of. Also, research has found consistent self esteem differences in genders cross culturally. One study looked at how male and female differences in self esteem were consistent across 48 different nations, showing great significance cross culturally. This could be because of the similarities in developmental stages in different areas of the world, and these turning points in life, like graduation and job and whatnot. And these points in life can influence behaviors or cognition, which can impact self esteem levels. Also, greater gender differences and self-esteem are more prevalent in developed countries, which could be due to the fact that developed cultures have values with more emphasis on freedom and equality, and women in cultures of extreme inequality often just accept their roles and compare themselves to those similar to them, which are, in their case, just other women. However, in more developed societies, women are now more a part of the men's world, which fosters comparison and exposure to the reality of gender inequalities, which is kind of ironic. But these inequalities that do exist and this awareness of what should be equal can result in lower self esteem for women in these developed areas. Also, a growing number of individuals are identifying with genders that differ from what is stereotypically defined as masculine and feminine, and this often comes with its own share of self esteem issues for these individuals. Multiple studies have found that self esteem levels of those in the LGBTQ community may be lower because of the interpersonal trauma they may face from society. With frequent negative stigma surrounding non traditional gender roles, many of those in the LGBTQ community struggle with self criticism, shame, self blame, and a lack of self acceptance. They may view themselves to be more, or they may view themselves more negatively because they are less accepted by what is considered the dominant culture in society. And one study indicated that many of the LGBTQ community has reported feeling like they live in a discriminatory, hostile social environment with a lot of heterosexists or homophobes or transphobic people. They found that these negative attitudes towards the LGBTQ community were directly correlated to psychological distress, which results in mental health issues, including lower self esteem levels. However, they did find that LGBTQ individuals with higher levels of self esteem were correlated with lower levels of shame, which makes sense because confidence can foster positive self esteem. So, therefore, more societal acceptance of the LGBTQ community could lead to less shame and greater self esteem within them. And then there are a lot of potential effects of self esteem levels on health, whether presently or in the future for individuals. Those with higher levels of self esteem are associated with stronger coping abilities, emotional stability, closer romantic relationships, better job performance, greater academic achievement, and overall satisfaction in quality of life. But on the other hand, those with lower levels of self esteem have shown very strong associations with many behavioral and emotional issues such as depression, eating disorders, defensiveness, sensitivity to rejection, delinquency, less contribution to relationships in their life, and less job and economic success. Also, one study found a significant relationship between self esteem levels during adolescence and depressive symptoms later on in life, showing that self esteem levels at a younger age can be predictive of mental health in adulthood. So, how can we make a change in this area? I think we can help reduce gender differences in self esteem levels by educating individuals on gender issues and definitions and how the culture around these issues is changing, and just helping people to better understand how gender identity differs from biological sex. I also think that with such commonly low levels of self esteem among adolescents, especially, it's super important to work towards affirming adolescents and helping them to better love and understand and accept themselves and others. And also just showing more acceptance and support towards all people overall. I mean, these things are easier said than done. But I think that with proper education and effort, small changes can make a big difference over time. And then these are my references.